This is a topic I want to cover today because I was inspired by two comments. One was from YouTube, and one was in our community in the school. And it's on the topic of trauma healing. There was a topic regarding like through the self-inquiry perspective, what is the whole outlook on releasing trauma or overcoming or dealing with deeply embedded emotions. The concern in those comments was that when we create a separation between us and the emotion, and we see that we are not the emotion, or we step out of the story, we identify only with awareness, or we just try to turn our attention away and just be the seer, see the seer. The concern was, is that not suppressing the emotion? Does this practice not mean suppressing these themes of trauma in the mind, running away from them? Is it not a form of spiritual bypassing? I feel that this whole topic of trauma healing is one that the spiritual community is very obsessed about, unknowingly so. So I thought today I'd do a talk addressing this and hopefully shed some clarity on this. In terms of deeply embedded emotions, maybe certain themes that you've been feeling for a long time, recurrent feeling patterns that bring recurring thought patterns and recurring behavior patterns. It's all sort of related together and arises together. Maybe creates a lot of pollution in your life, dysfunction, suffering, holds you back from doing the things you want or experiencing life as you want. What is our usual way of dealing with these things? When these things arise, they are not pleasant to feel. So we try to do something to get rid of the feeling, or we try to go experience something, stimulate ourselves, so that way we can numb ourselves from feeling these things or thinking about these things. Or we do think a lot about them, overly think about them, analyze them, keep recreating those same things that happened and re-triggering those feelings by thinking of what happened. And within these thoughts, there is a sense of importance imbued in these thoughts, that like thinking about these things to try to understand them, these things that have happened to me in the past, I need to think about them so that I can get, free from them. I need to think about them so that I can understand them better. So that's why there's a huge resistance when we encounter this teaching that asks us to step out of the story. It's almost like we're triggered to step out of the story because we feel like, how can you tell me to not think about what happened to me? It means so much to us, what happened to me and what caused me all this pain. Are you telling me my pain doesn't exist, that it's not important? Isn't that just a suppression of my pain, my problems, my story, my history? The way I like to see it is you constantly thinking about your problems, thinking about what you're feeling, what caused it, what it will lead to, is a suppression of reality as it is. When an emotion arises in the present, when a feeling arises or an experience arises in the present, until you start to think about it, there's no notion of, oh, this happened in my past and that's why this is arising. The current experience is always fresh. The current feeling, the current emotion, whatever arises here and now is always fresh. Our teaching here in the school asks us to observe without attachment or resistance, to feel fully whatever arises, to experience fully whatever arises without running away, without seeking something else, without having any motive or judgment towards what is arising now, without any thought of what's causing it, what it will lead to, what happened in the past because of which is arising now. None of those. All of those thoughts are absent, and we are just fully open to the experience that is arising as it is arising now. This is actually being with the real, meaning like you are actually experiencing what is without polluting it with your ideas about what is making it arise and what caused it from the past and whether you like it or don't. So when it comes to this practice, to constantly think about what is arising, to judge it and to interpret it, you are suppressing experiencing life as it is. Through our constant judgment and interpretation and clinging to memory about things and relating to the current experience through that filter, you are suppressing reality or life as it is. And that's why we stay stuck in a cycle of pain and suffering. Yes, in a certain way, you can say that, oh my God, there's trauma in the body, there's deeply embedded emotions in the mind, recurring patterns. On one level, we can acknowledge that. But when it comes to direct experience, which is actually life as it is, beyond your concepts, beyond your theories and mental formulations, there's no such thing as a deeply embedded emotion or trauma. It's just life as it is appearing right now. And sometimes that is difficult emotions, feelings, situations. Now, this is the extent to which you allow yourself to heal. If you can fully experience what is arising without any story, without any concept of who you are or what that is, to that extent, healing is present. What is healing? A transcending of identification with the story, with the things that are arising, whether it's feelings or behavior patterns or personhood in its entirety. That's the real healing. To the extent we can embrace and experience the current experience as it is, to that extent, there's healing. Yet, if we continue to remain in judgment, interpretation, past, story, to that extent, this cycle will just repeat itself in various different ways. In our practice, it's so crucial to see that, yes, this is the experience that is currently arising, and therefore I'm fully willing to experiencing it. I'm open to fully embracing and allowing this experience to be as it is. No clinging, no resistance. Yet we at the same time acknowledge that I am not this experience. I am that which is aware of this experience. I am that unchanging reality in which this experience is appearing and passing. That ever present, still beingness, awareness, knowingness, in which this experience is appearing and passing. I hate the term spiritual bypassing. You know why? Because it's created only for people who don't actually practice the teaching, who are not honest with themselves. Only if you continue to lie to yourself and fall in love with these spiritual concepts, yet you don't practice, then they're spiritual bypassing, which means, you just create an idea in your mind that I am awareness and I don't suffer. And so but that itself becomes a form of escape where you're not actually being awareness. You're just a person who has come up with the concept, I am awareness. And now you use that to justify dysfunctional behavior, either running away from what is or chasing more pleasure. To you, the earnest seeker of truth, who is self honest and strives to actually practice the teaching, I say, don't worry about this whole notion of spiritual bypassing. You don't have to even spend a moment of thought about that subject. So, how do we here deal with this whole notion of deeply embedded emotions or trauma healing? Experience life as it is now, here and now, with no notion of even trying to become free from trauma. Experience life in its fullness, here and now, as it is arising, whether that's pain or pleasure, fear, anger, frustration, excitement. Be like the awareness, which is the unreserved welcoming of all of these experiences that arise and pass in it with no conflict whatsoever. As you practice this, it's not like you're also resisting personhood. Sometimes, yeah, you may want to think about the things that have happened to you and you want to maybe think and understand things. That's fine too. Go ahead. Every now and then you can conceptualize things and try to intellectualize them and, even on the mental level, try to understand. That's okay. But to rely on that, to think that that is your way of healing or, transcending these patterns, that is limited. It's false. When we practice living in this way, being the total welcoming, non judgmental welcoming of all experience as it is, as it is, as it is. On the personal level, we realize many things, you know, we, yeah, we do understand, oh, maybe I was doing this to avoid feeling a certain way, or I was avoiding going and seeing these people because I just wanted to not feel a certain way, or I was holding myself back from doing something I genuinely was inspired towards just because I was afraid. So it's like on the personal level, you make all those adjustments. On the personal level, you have many personal learnings that come out of being totally welcoming of all experiences. So this practice does not neglect the personal side of things, where you do sometimes have to like go into the situation aspect of it and overcome certain fears, become vulnerable, be courageous. Matter of fact, it is the deeper spiritual element of total acceptance. practicing being the awareness of all experiences that actually equips you to go down to the personal level and do all this work with greater clarity. But we have to really heal the person, heal its expression, make it more and more wholesome, truthful, authentic. We have to start to understand who we are prior to the person, prior to this story. What is my true nature? That is actually the main work. The rest happens to us. So don't identify with your story. Don't identify with the pain, what you've been through. Don't even be attached to healing with needing to change. From when you were a child to now and even beyond, you are always the same. You have never changed. There is the self which is not traumatized or hurt. Our practice is about discovering that in its fullness, not to the detriment of the person or the suppression of the person. But you can only ever really fully embrace being a person when you start to discover who you are beyond the person. Get rid of this idea you have a lot of healing to do and embedded emotions and trauma. Sure, there may be some stuff in the mind that is just what the and the body, that's just what the body and mind are. They're just ever evolving processes, ever changing field of sensations and thoughts and feelings. It's okay the body has trauma. It's okay the mind has deeply embedded patterns and behaviors and feelings. Experience them as they arise, here and now, without filtering them through the past. You may have gone through something in the past. Maybe there's a lot of trauma in the body because of it. especially if it was a physical illness or injury. And you may experience symptoms of that to this day. When those symptoms arise, don't go into the story of why they're arising, what happened in the past that's causing them. Just experience them as they are, whether it's pain or discomfort, fear. You may have a illness, and with that arises a lot of pain and discomfort, and also thoughts in the mind about how that will happen, what will happen to you in the future. Experience those symptoms as they are without any past or future. Surrender yourself. On the personal level, you do what you have to do to take care of your symptoms and get better. But you're done living in the past and in fear of the future, of where this has developed from and what it will turn into. You have no space for that anymore. That is a suppression of reality. That's not you taking care of yourself. That's not you looking out for yourself. That is you avoiding what actually is and dwelling in a conceptual reality, which is ultimately illusion, and just feeding this story with more juice, which is fear. It's how I deal with my physical stuff, you know? Having gone through a lot of physical pain in the past, I still have symptoms of it all the time. Pain sometimes arises, varying degrees. You just observe it as it is rather than attaching a story to it and a future perspective to it, and not even being attached to its going away. You see, that's the part I think that's really important with this practice. You observe and feel and experience not with the intention to make it go away, but to simply experience it as it is, because that is life. That which seeks an escape from it, wishes to get rid of it, is the problematic one. That is the pollution you need to stop identifying with and taking to be yourself. The more we experience life as it is, the more we come to see that I am not what is coming and going. I am not these feelings. I am not these situations. I am not this body. I am not this mind full of pain and trauma. The more personal realizations we have too, and the more changes in behavior that spontaneously happen. On the personal level, we should strive to make our expression more and more authentic. Less and less fear controlling us, anxiety controlling us, insecurity controlling us. We don't need to make it our life mission to get rid of these things. It's not like we have to fully stop them, but we should strive to live an authentic life, doing what we are inspired to do and what makes us happy, and not let these things hold us back. as we discover our true nature, I do think that the strength of these emotions and mental patterns decreases greatly, but they may still continue to arise and we can be open to that. I have not experienced any end to these feelings or mental themes, so I cannot speak on that. But I say, instead of trying to get to a point where you don't feel these things anymore, which itself is a motive out of resistance, just be the welcoming of experience as it needs to appear. If these feelings must arise, even though you've done 5 years of spiritual work, that's okay. What seeks an escape? What seeks to resist? What seeks to get rid of them? Just experience them as they are. Step out of the story and experience them as they are. And then on the personal level, just do what needs to be done without resistance. No feeling can ultimately hurt you, but the belief that I am deeply traumatized and I need to keep healing is greatly hurtful because it keeps you in a cycle of suffering. What is? Here we are allowing the body to be limited and traumatized. We are allowing the mind to be limited and traumatized. Sometimes they get better, sometimes they fall back in their old ways, sometimes they feel good, sometimes they don't. But we're just now being like God is, being like awareness is, the total allowance of however the body and mind are appearing here and now in my presence, God's presence, presence of self, without judgment. The reason it feels hard is because we're so identified with these feelings. That's why we are taught to observe without judgment, because only through that we learn to see that there is a subtler, ever present awareness, which I am, in which these feelings come and go. I am not these feelings. I am prior to them. I am not bothered by them. I do not suffer them. Even resistance is another feeling in my seeing that I am not. In our teaching, the greatest purifier, the greatest healer, like if you could drink one potion for all of your problems, because, here there's many of us from all different backgrounds, and just within us, we probably have all different types of problems that you can cover in the human spectrum. If we combine our problems together, we're probably experiencing the entire spectrum of problems you can experience here. So if there was just one great solution for all of our problems, it is I am. Cling to the I am, identify as the I am, be the I am, focus on the I am, be aware that I am, get to know it, be with it, dwell in it, love it, adore it, surrender to it, care only about it. And then on the personal level, it will reveal everything to us, what we need to do and how and when and how to get better, how to do this, how to do that. It's not going to solve all our problems, but it will keep things flowing in harmony without suffering. It will dissolve identification with all experiences because I am is the unchanging truth. It is the presence of God. It is the all healing, knowing presence. Bring all your fears to it. Let them dissolve in I am. All your supposed trauma, not in the form of thoughts, but in the actual experience of it. Bring it to the I am. Be present with it, be with it, feel it. That's what's happening when you feel it, right? Observe it. You're bringing it into the I am, into the light of I am. That is the greatest healing you can do in this physical realm. Don't just pick up this belief, I am the unchanging I am, or awareness, and I am the total allowing of all experiences. Yet when you experience a difficult feeling or experience you're still suffering it or resisting it, running away from it, or saying you don't care about it, right? Like be honest with yourself at all times. If you don't, if you can't recognize in that moment that you are that which is aware, like just like from wherever you find yourself in that experience, like work from there, practice the teaching. Don't just mentally affirm things, like instead just practice the teaching, practice being with the experience, observing it, experiencing it without judgment, without resistance. Self honesty makes us practice in the hardest of times, where in the hardest of times, you don't care about the practice, you care about being right or getting revenge or dwelling in anger or dwelling in self pity because you're hurt or you're victimized. All of these ego payoffs are greater than you wanting to practice and being without description, motive, judgment. It's a lot easier to be angry than to be aware, to be frustrated, to get revenge, to dwell in stories about how you've been wronged in life. It's much easier to do that than being aware, being present, resting as I am. Self honesty makes you practice. Because if you're not practicing, then you can't complain about you're not making spiritual progress. And self honesty won't allow you to. The spiritual path will literally challenge you in such a way where self honesty is so needed, because without it, we keep fooling ourselves. We keep seeking these little ego payoffs in the moment when it gets difficult. And then when it gets easier, then we're like, oh, yeah, now I'll practice. We have to want spiritual growth more than we care about these little ego payoffs. And yes, dwelling in your story about how you've been wronged and how you've been hurt in life and all that, and, people not treating you well or you going through difficult situations, all that self pity is also ego. Insecurity is ego. This path will challenge you and, yeah, just really challenge you to get a step out of that. So step up in the difficult moments when those feelings are at full force and experiences may be difficult. You don't need to be perfect, but we do need to try our best. If we try our best, then there will be no um, room for self judgment or quote unquote spiritual bypassing. To end today's talk, I just want to share with you a the teaching that I sent out today for the daily teaching, and I think it really just shows you what the spiritual path is beyond our idea of it. We think the spiritual path is something so extraordinary, and I'm seeking these crazy realizations and mind blowing revelations and experiences, blissful experiences. So let me read out what I wrote today. It said, don't expect anything extraordinary to happen on the spiritual path. Let life unfold ordinarily. Take it day by day. Do your practices. Live a wholesome, simple, contemplative life. Meditate every day. Devote a portion of your day to sitting in silence. Discern between unchanging being and changeful experiences throughout the day. Live in acceptance of what comes and goes. Don't be attached or averse to anything. Surrender to God. Know God to be your only security, your only protector. Do your work without resistance. Handle your responsibilities with care. Solve one problem at a time. Live honestly, truthfully, attentively. Love, laugh, learn. Do your best. Allow yourself to fail. Stay humble. This is the spiritual life. Just with this simple day to day approach, wisdom will flow. Don't even get attached to the teaching of non duality, Embrace it all, your non dual nature and your totally limited personal nature. Explore both, live both, be both. Just day by day. Practice. Don't seek anything. Don't expect anything. Find joy in your life as it is, not in ideas of what it must become. Find acceptance in your limitations also. Work to resolve them, work to resolve your problems, that's fine, but through acceptance of how they currently are. Never fighting against what is, always working with it. Seeing it as your journey for self realization. What is challenging you is awakening you. What is challenging you is not your enemy. The trauma in your body is not your enemy. The person who wronged you in the past is not your enemy. See it all as God's messengers. Step out of your personal judgment about them and see them all as workers of the light, guiding you towards it. Be sincere in your quest and surrendering yourself entirely to God. Don't worry about being misled or nonsense like spiritual bypassing. Don't even be attached to any destination of how much spiritual growth you must do in this lifetime. I got a question recently. Oh, do we retain our spiritual progress when we die and enter into a next life? But please tell me the answer to this question, because if we don't, then I'm totally unmotivated and I'm going to stop my spiritual practice. I promise that's a question I got recently. Very similar words. We're very interested in dwelling in ideas about what the spiritual path is and karma and next lives and enlightenment. And we don't want to face life actually as it is. Here we do the opposite. Step out of your concepts about the future, about enlightenment, about all spirituality, even. Our practice is like really learning to face life, experience life in both the spiritual and personal side of it, embracing both. Mhm. So I hope that clarifies some things on this subject. If you're here in the school and you really resonate with this path, trust me, you don't have to worry about the other stuff. Just fully embrace and devote yourself to the teaching of our practice, and the rest really does make itself known to you. If something needs to be worked on, it will be worked on. It will reveal itself to you. If something on the personal side of things you have to really dive into, like, you will, but with way greater clarity. Don't worry about suppression and this and that. Like, just be self honest, do what you feel is right in the moment, practice wholeheartedly to the best of your ability. The rest you don't worry about. Even if you are afraid of practicing incorrectly, trust God to correct your course. If you're worrying about not practicing correctly, you're not surrendering to God. You're too attached and having to know things and being in charge of things. Surrender to God and trust that if you're practicing incorrectly, God will re-guide your course, recorrect your course. And you will see it time and time again where, yeah, you maybe recognize I wasn't practicing correctly in the past. And now, clarity comes.